Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Glad you are with us. We were talking about elder law tonight, giving you some good information in a season when, well, that's very important. Certainly, people are signing up for Medicare. This is the time to do that, and we have an expert with us who can help you answer that question. So a good opportunity to call in with any sort of question you may have involving elder law. Both of our guests joining us from Tagus McGinnis via Zoom, and glad they are here. I want to ask you, Chris, as partner there with Tagus McGinnis, What is I guess kind of the biggest area where you see questions? Would it be around wills? Would it be around trusts or powers of attorney? Kind of what's the area where you see the most questions?
I think in general, just because the topic's so broad, I think trusts, because people, they hear the word trust, they know it exists, they're not quite sure how it works, and importantly, oftentimes they'll get confused between a revocable living trust and an irrevocable trust, where one can provide a great deal of asset protection and really put someone in a really strong position as far as protecting their estate, and the other more of a probate avoidance tool, and they will have a revocable trust and they think, oh, I've got a trust, I've got asset protection, and they really don't. And so understanding the difference between the types of trusts, there are a lot of questions on that, and just trusts in general, because most of us have been conditioned over the years to just have a will. You know, we see it on TV and in movies. There's the formal reading of the will, and we all think that still takes place when it really doesn't anymore. And people don't understand that there's just simply a better way of doing it. As far as technical questions, I think we're here tonight, we get a lot of Medicare questions. I mean, that's why we have a dedicated specialist for it in Joshua Hunter here, and he is truly a force multiplier with our clients, because those are questions that hit them every day. You know, you establish a will, execute a will, establish your trust, and you feel like, yeah, I've got that done, that's taken care of. Medicare is an every year event, and every year it changes. It's a very dynamic environment, and you need to make sure you're up to speed on that. And so from a specific topic area, I think a lot on Medicare and a lot on Medicaid, frankly, because people wonder, hey, this is just, it seems like an overwhelming labyrinth of, I don't know how I'm going to navigate this maze. How are we going to get through it? And that's where our multidisciplinary team, we just don't have attorneys and legal specialists here. We have elder care coordinators. We have a licensed social worker. We have public benefits specialists for Medicare, for Medicaid, and for VA. And we bring that dynamic team together to answer whatever area it is that the questions are in. Medicare is a big one. Medicaid is a big one as far as those specific issue-driven questions go.
Yeah, I want to talk more about trust in a moment, and I think I'm most disappointed by what you said, that the formal reading of wills doesn't take place. That is kind of a dramatic moment on TV, and you're saying it doesn't happen anymore. But maybe I'll ask about that in a minute. But I want to ask you, Josh, as far as Medicare, Medicaid right now, there's no doubt that's what people are really focused on. Number one mistake, is there a number one mistake people make? As they're signing up right now, you kind of threw some things out. Is there a top mistake or a top couple mistakes you would really want people to avoid as they're looking at this?
Yes, sir, for sure. I think the number one mistake that comes to my mind, and it's one out of good intentions and everything, but we need to be careful in regards to taking advice from our friends and our family in terms of what their insurance looks like and trying to mirror their insurance. I've heard that over the years so many times. Well, my neighbor's got this awesome insurance and she doesn't pay $1 for it, so I need to go ahead and call and sign up. And insurance is individual, and it needs to stay individual, and understand that it's very unlikely that you and your neighbor have all of the same medical concerns, the same doctors, specialists, maybe hospitals you would use, or prescriptions that you're currently taking. And just trying to jump on a bandwagon can cost you in severe ways. Even a plan that looks inexpensive is only inexpensive when used properly. So that's one thing to consider, is that, all of your stuff is individual. Not even your spouse may not need the same plans that you have.
How complicated? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay.
What?
I was going to say another key mistake that I see sometimes is people jumping from original Medicare to Medicare Advantage and not really considering how difficult it may be to go back. As we've already alluded to tonight, there are guaranteed issue rights that can make it really difficult to pick up a supplement if you're outside of that initial enrollment period. Medicare Advantage plans also have very specific networks of providers you're allowed to see and who you can work with. Those are our HMO or PPO plans. And sometimes they lure people in with the bells and whistles, vision coverage or some dental coverage. And people don't do the homework to understand that they can't see their doctor they've seen for 20 years, or they can't go to this particular specialist they wanted to work with. For example, the Blue Advantage plans in our area for quite some time didn't want to work with Vanderbilt. And we know that can be a serious hit to people's, medical planning if all your specialists happen to be at Vanderbilt. But it takes a little research to understand how all of those pieces come together.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. How complicated is it? And that's a big problem. If they're not going to take Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt's a major provider around here, and many people do go through them in some way, shape, or form, that's a problem. How obvious is that kind of thing, and how much reading of the fine print is there?
I'll be honest with you, it's not obvious at all. It's something that you really have to know what you're looking for and the way to look for it. Even the program that I use, which is medicare.gov, where all of this information from every company on the market is turned into Medicare, doesn't tell you if your doctor's covered or not. These are things you have to know to look for. And in regards to managing networks, managing expenses, guaranteed issue rights, various other concerns, how things change over time, that stuff's not listed by the plans. It's listed by Medicare's rules and procedures. So not only do you have to understand how the Medicare program itself works, you have to understand how the individual companies are choosing to implement those rules that are in place. Because each company's a little different. They have their own formularies, their own networks, whatever situation they choose to work with, they're all individual plans. So it can be a lot to wrap your head around, but I feel like if our listeners tonight understand that your insurance needs to be individual and you need to do the homework for how best to make your insurance work for you, you'll be in a good spot. And if you don't know how to do that, definitely find somebody who does, because it can make a large difference. We just saved somebody $5,000 a year for the rest of their life about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, and everything you're saying really hits home. I mean, we at our work now, we're signing up for insurance, and I think there is we are all inclined to just ask our friend, well, what did you sign up for? And it's like, okay, that's fine. And it's kind of this thing we have to do quickly, and we probably don't put anywhere near, maybe it's just me, we don't put anywhere near the time we should into it. And so if people are signing up, how much time would you recommend? I mean, obviously, come to you, ask these questions. That's the best thing to do. But how much time would you say they should devote to this? An hour or two? It's not something you just do off the cuff, right? You need to devote some real time to it.
That's right. It does take a little bit of time to make sure everything's right. And ultimately, the answer to your question depends on how experienced you are with the subject. If you're a new person and you're going to take the route to teach Medicare to yourself while trying to go through open enrollment, it might take you a little bit of time to really understand what you're dealing with and understand the different parts and what your options are. But for me, I think that's the easiest way I can tell you for time is it takes me about 30 minutes a person to really be able to sit down and go through their drug options for next year. That's not their total plan. There's a lot of individual considerations when you sit across the table from somebody who has their own medical history, their own list of medications, their own concerns, and then particularly their own budget. And so it does take a little bit to know what you're doing. When I was training, people for the state, I was the coordinator for the Upper Cumberland for a couple of years and trained volunteers on Medicare. It took me 2 full 12-hour days of training to certify somebody.
So is that frustrating? That happens to me too. It
takes a little bit of time.
Is that frustrating? Yeah. I mean, do you think that it's needlessly complicated, or that's just the way it is because there's so much? I mean, is somebody like you, would you like to see them streamline things? Could they make things more simple, or is it, some would say, are they deliberately making things complicated?
You're getting to the cynical side of me here, but in my time of working with Medicare, I would say that things are unnecessarily complicated. I've had the opportunity on multiple occasions to stand across the stage with CMS and tell them, this is what our clients say, this is what real life people are dealing with, And it would be easier if you would change things. And they're not interested in doing it. Is it deliberate? I'm not sure. I mean, it feels that way. And I know our clients certainly feel that way because it's confusing. And, I hear all the time, Josh, I've never heard about a penalty. Josh, I didn't understand how the hospice benefit worked in conjunction with long-term care. I don't understand what guaranteed issue rights are. I've never heard of that. I don't understand what the term creditable coverage is. Why is it Medicare Part A, B, C, and D, and then we have supplement plan A, B, C, F, G, J? It can be alphabet soup for sure, and it's a lot for people to deal with.
Wow. Okay. Everything you said, those are good questions. All right. So this is your chance to call in. We're going to take a break, and I'm also going to come back and ask some more questions about trusts. If you have a question about trusts, call in with that as well. The number at the bottom of the screen there, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Continue our discussion right after this.